All right, guys, welcome to the Noob Report. This is a little series I'm doing. It's going to give you an introduction to all of the starter decks that are available in the game and how to improve them so that you can get your ranking up as quickly as possible in the beginning, because the first 7 levels of progression will unlock one copy of some really critical cards that you'll want to have in your collection. So the goal of this series is to show you some decks that will work really well right out of the gates. I did some videos about a year ago. A lot's changed since then. Cards have been nerfed, some cards have been buffed, and overall things have changed a little bit. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you an improved Japan starter deck and which nation to ally with. So if you play the starter decks just the way that they came out in the game initially, they're not the most effective decks. So you're not going to want to play them that way. You're going to want to mix it up. And the problem is you don't know what you don't know yet, so you don't even know what you should mix up. So in this particular video, I'm going to show you a Japan-USA combo. And the reason why I pair Japan and USA is because with USA in the beginning with the starter decks, you get some really nice cards that complement most other nations. And I highly suggest that you use Japan for your very first nation. Use Japan to unlock all the other decks, and use Japan right away in the beginning to do your first play through the game to get familiar with the game. I think Japan is the most forgiving nation. I think there's a lot of mechanics within the cards that help new players gain some advantages even when you're on your back foot and you're at a disadvantage on the tempo. There's destruction effects and different things that could really help you to make up that difference in tempo if you make mistakes. So I really think Japan is a good deck to start with for learning more about the game. So let's just go through the starter deck. And the code's pasted down below, so you could just import this by copying the code from the comments down below, come into the game, hit the plus button to add a deck, and the game will ask you if you want to paste the code that it sees on your clipboard, and it'll import the deck for you. So you can do that to copy this deck into the game very easily. You don't have to build it one card at a time. So USA gives us the M8 Greyhound, which is a fantastic tank. You got the 1-3 body on it, and which is great for trading off units early in the game. And it has blitz, so you can advance to the front line real quick by turn 2. And it will also buff the support line units and give them a +1 attack. So if you have that in the front line and you have planes or artillery on the back line, this will buff them and give them a +1 on their attack, which is super useful. Imperial Order, looking at Japan here now. I'm just going to go in order from left to right here really quick. Imperial Order, fully repair unit, give it 1/1. That's just fantastic. You can kill a unit, and if you live, use this card to heal your unit afterwards, or you could use this to offset an imbalance. So if your opponent has a card that's a bit stronger than yours, you could use this to bring your card up so that it could trade effectively with it. Rising Sun is basically Japan's #1 card draw mechanism. Every deck needs to have draw so you can keep extra cards coming into your hand. Without draw, you will die. So this is what you get with Japan's starter deck is Rising Sun, and arguably one of the better draw cards in the game, because for 1 credit, you're getting 2 cards. You just have to have the front line. So it's important you read your cards and understand how they work. So this card, if you control a Japanese unit in the front line, draw 2 cards. So make sure you have a Japanese unit in the front line and you will draw 2 cards. I made the mistake when I started out, and I still see people make the mistakes, even experienced players, playing too quickly and not realizing that. You definitely don't want to waste your draw engine by making a mistake like that. All right, next we got AWOKEN GIANT from the USA. Deal 2 damage to a target unit in the front line. If it destroys the unit, you draw a card. So this gives you a little bit more draw, but it's conditional. So not as reliable or consistent, but if you could time it so that you kill the unit, this will give you another card draw. 34th Infantry, a 2/2 infantry that will have a 0 operation cost, and you can get it down on turn 1. Super useful card. Still pretty strong. And reading the passive effect. So this card has what's called a passive effect. So something will happen during the game while this card's in play. At the end of your turn, remove the top card of your deck from the game. A lot of people, initially, you look at that and you think it sucks, and you're like, why would anybody do that? But you have to keep in mind that with a deck style like Japan, very aggro, very aggressive. As you can see from the cost curve, a lot of early cost, not a lot of late cost. And what that means is that you're not even going to see half your deck anyway. So really, whatever the top 20 cards are on your deck are really what you're going to end up playing. So you can't worry about the discard effect of this thing or the fact that it's milling cards off your deck. It doesn't matter. This is a strong unit to get on the board with 0 operation cost and have it play out for you there. because you can see the 15th Cav, the same thing. It has Blitz and it's a 2-1, but only 1 health. So for the extra health, you're basically milling a card that doesn't matter. Type 93 is a super strong Japan card. It's meta all the way up to the top, giving all of your friendly units on board a +1 attack. The 15th Cav, 0 operation cost, a 1 cost deployment with Blitz. Get that out to the front line on turn 1 and plug the front line. USA gives us this T19 Howitzer. Super effective in starting cards, in the starting decks. A lot of opponents, British opponents and Japan opponents, will be playing guards to protect their units and their HQ. And the T19, when you attack a guard, it takes away the guard, the guard effect for that turn only. So you could use this guy to rip through guards so that you can get at the HQ and deal that important damage to the HQ. Or you could also, I mean, artillery doesn't take damage back. So when artillery attacks, it doesn't receive damage back. So artillery is very strong in that way. And it helps to chip away at your opponent's units. The Akita Regiment is one of the stronger Japan cards when it comes to infantry. For a 2-cost unit to deploy, 1 cost to move. It has Blitz, which means you can put it to the front line all in 1 turn. And when it dies, it deals 2 damage to a random enemy. So you get this extra destruction effect of 2 extra damage. It is random. It could hit the HQ, but oftentimes you'll get a 2-for-1 value on this when you kill a unit, plus the destruction will hit a different unit and kill it. So that 2-for-1 value is just massive for this unit. The Type 97 Chiha, again, this is just a buff card. Friendly infantry has a +1 attack, so we're playing these out. For a 3-cost tank for a 3/3 body, it's a very good card still, just in its own merit with its stats, but giving our friendly infantry +1 is huge because a lot of our deck, as you've seen so far, is infantry. The MITO Regiment. So this is one of the key burn cards, as they call it. So burn meaning when it dies, it deals damage. And so the destruction here is the damage goes against the HQ. Whereas Akita hits a random enemy, the MITO will always hit the HQ for its destruction effect. So again, strong card, because if we have 3 of these in our deck, that's guaranteeing 6 damage to the HQ if we get to play all 3 of these, which is great. And we combine that with the Hayabusa, which is a very similar effect, except it's an airplane, so it costs a bit more. It's a 3/3 airplane, and again, when it dies, it deals 2 damage to the enemy HQ. And so this is what I was talking about, where Japan is a lot more forgiving. If you don't have control of the board and you need to get that last 4 or 6 or 8, even 10 damage in, these guys here, like this is 12 damage to the HQ just by getting these guys on the board and killing them. So even if they have a guard up, whatever, you could just attack this plane into something that will kill it, and you deal that last 2 damage to the HQ if you need it. Amphibious Assault is just a meta level removal card. It's played throughout all tiers of the game, so you'll love this card for a long time. And destroy any enemy unit that has a 3 or less attack. So that's just it, just a straight up destruction and destroy removal card. Good to have. Bombing Raid. I have Bombing Raid in here right now. You won't have this in the beginning, so you're going to be playing a different card in the beginning. We're going to be playing, what was it? Yeah, we're going to have an extra 15th Cav Regiment in here instead. And at the end, when you unlock Bombing Raid, is one of the cards you're going to unlock, one of the 7 cards through the progression system. This card will go into your deck right away because it's top tier meta. But you're not going to see this in the games that I've recorded because I didn't have it at the time I played those games, but it gets unlocked later. So you're going to put in a 15th Cavalry for the Bombing Raid. I'll make that change right now so that I'll make sure the deck code down below reflects properly. So Bombing Raid is out of the deck because you won't have that yet. This deck is strictly the starter cards. I did not replace any cards in any of these starter decks with anything unlocked from packs or from... like you get 5 free packs when you first start the game. None of those cards are included in this deck, and none of the cards unlocked from progression are included in this deck. This deck is 100% pure starter cards. All right, so USA, Death from Above, destroy a random enemy unit, speaks for itself. 4 credits, destroy something. The Zero has Ambush. If you don't understand Ambush, go get my other video and watch about how Ambush works. One of the top new player mistakes is understanding Ambush, and it's a critical thing to understand because it can make you win or lose a game if you make a mistake against a unit with Ambush. And that's what makes the Zero such a strong plane, because it's a plane, it has a 4 attack, a 4 health, and it has Ambush. Super strong plane. And on deployment, it deals 1 damage. So that ping, it's called, dealing that ping out is huge. It lets you strategically set up other units so that they can't cover the ambush. So by not covering the ambush, meaning say you have a unit on the board that has 5 health. The enemy has a unit with 5 health. You deploy the 0. You deal the 1 damage to that 5 health, making it 4. Now that unit can't attack you and win because it doesn't have enough to beat the ambush. So these kinds of things you got to factor into the game, and the deployment effect on this is huge. Very, very useful. The Osaka Regiment is one of the top tier guards in the game, so we're playing this card here just to get some meat on the board, some strong units, some big tough units with a lot of health and body, and plus it's a guard, so the guard will protect our HQ and any other units on the side of it from being attacked, because that's what the guards do. And again, if you have any questions about these effects, guys, it says right in here, if you mouse over the card, it explains what these attributes do and what these mechanics are. Ambush is still one, even though it says in here exactly what it does. It's only one sentence, and it still confuses the crap out of everybody. So I did an entire video on Ambush. P-51 Mustang is a solid US airplane. This just got buffed in the last patch. It used to not have this effect. Now at deployment, it will deal 5 damage to a random enemy air unit. So this plane here just became meta because of that new deployment effect. Super strong US card right there for you. So that's the starter deck. It plays really good. The goal of the deck here is aggro. We want to win fast. We want to hit face. We want to get control of the board really quick and then just kill the HQ as fast as possible. We don't have a lot of units to win 12, 14, 15 turn game. We want to win within the first 8 or 9 turns at the maximum. When it starts getting onto there, it could start to get a little bit more challenging. And so just keep that in mind. So at the beginning of the game, when you mulligan, you want to look for these Greyhounds, and you want to look for these 34th Infantries. You want to look for 15th Cavaliers. These are the guys we want to mulligan into, so that we have units to play right off the beginning on turn 1 and start putting the pressure on the opponent. So that's the goal of the game. And so let's take a look at what we're trying to do here is to get to progression level 7. So let's talk about the 7 cards you're going to unlock, and so you know what the value of those cards are. All right, so let's take a look at the first 7 cards that you're going to unlock from the progression system. So the goal of my starter deck series is to help you just get to level 7 in all the nations, which is what you can see here, 7s across the board. And because you're getting this new system is now giving you so many free cards that are considered to be highly played cards and very useful to help you progress through the game and get a few more wins along the way. So Type 93 is a super strong card, and you're going to want to include that into your deck right away as soon as you unlock that. Now, if you followed my instructions, or my suggestion rather, and you use Japan as part of the initial tutorial and accumulate that progression, so you will earn points on your progression playing the tutorial, you'll have Type 93 unlocked right away, and you'll be able to use it in your regular games as you move up to level 7. You will unlock a few of these cards right away, because you'll progress through using those tutorial games that still give you progression points or XP towards these progressions. So Type 93 is a super strong card. Friendly units have +1 attack. Fantastic card. It's meta all the way up, so you're definitely going to want to have that card in your collection, which you will right away. The B5N Kate, not a very predominant card later in the ladder or in the higher level play, but at the lower levels of play, I can see how this card could be useful. It's a bomber, which means it doesn't take damage back when it attacks, but it does get blocked by fighter jets, so it's a bit harder from that perspective. It's a bit expensive for what you get. It does cost 6 credits to... If you're going to get blitz off of it, you're going to spend 6 credits to do 3 damage, and that is a really, really bad ratio. So this card here is actually not very good. You probably won't play it very often. I don't expect anyway. Amphibious Assault is a very strong removal order. So this just flat out kills a unit that has a 3 or less attack. Great for getting at artillery on the back line and things like these bombers here that are hard to get at. You'll be able to use Amphibious Assault to just flat out kill it. So the Type 3 Chinu, not a bad card. It's an ambush. So ambush is a very strong effect. I talk a lot about that in this video already. So to pay attention to that about how ambush works. And if you're still unsure, I have a whole video dedicated to ambush, like I said a few times now. Go check that out. And it also has guard while in your support line. So while in the support line, this tank has guard, but if you move it up to the front line, it loses guard, but it still has ambush. So it's a pretty strong card. It's a 4/5, so it's got a really strong body. And that 4 attack makes the ambush pretty strong. So definitely a decent card to have, especially in the early ranks when your opponents are not going to have a lot of things to deal with ambush very efficiently. Air superiority, extremely useful card. A lot of the air decks, British Air, Japan Air, will use this card because it does deal good damage for the cost. 1 credit, you're going to deal 1 damage to a unit, and if you have an air unit on the battlefield, it'll deal 3 damage. So super strong card, and you will see that played a lot as you advance up through the ranks. And then Blade of the Samurai is a special, and so this is your free special that you're going to get from this stack. And it's just a hard removal, destroys any unit in the game. So even if your enemy plays one of the biggest tanks in the game or the biggest bombers, all you got to do is hit it with this card and it's destroyed. So it's a very powerful card and used in a lot of control decks. Would be used in all the control decks that have Japan would be using Bladed Samurai for the, I would have to say. So Bombing Raid is the elite that you're going to get. This card is top meta. Absolutely a fantastic card. All Japan aggro decks are going to run this card. So as soon as you have it unlocked, throw it in your deck. Very useful. And like I said, when I was just going through the deck review, through the deck review, it was in the deck. And as I said, I didn't have it in to play with for these 7. None of these decks are using any of these cards yet because I wanted to just play through with the starter cards only. But when you do have this card, you're going to include it in your deck for sure when you're playing with Japan. So that's the 7 cards you're going to get for free by progressing to level 7. Let's jump into the gameplay and see how you'll be able to get that goal accomplished. All right, here we go. All right, let's jump into our games here and see how this game goes with Japan. So these are pre-recorded and I'm giving commentary on the play. So I'm going to be guessing a bit what I might do and then I'm just going to talk through it. So let's take a look here. So we got a pretty bad mulligan. We didn't get our 1-drops. We got an Akita, which is okay. Okay, and we top decked the Howitzer, so we got a 2-drop. So that's okay, but I mean, with this deck, we really want to get those 1-drops out, the Greyhounds, or the 15th Cavs, because we just want to get some tempo on the board early. That's the whole point of the aggro decks. So he plays the guard down. So he's a USA British deck, which means he's probably playing a little bit slow mid-range. Considering the starter cards, they don't really have a full... With USA, it's a bit interesting to have with a British ally. And you'll see as we get into our USA deck in a couple of videos from now that USA is probably not the best... Or the British is probably not the best ally for the US. All right, so he's got 2 of them down now. We're on turn 3, so we can go ahead and hit with the Akita. The Akita destruction damage hits that frontline guard, so that's great for us. Because now that it's in range for our Awoken Giant that we have in hand, which will give us a card draw and kill his unit. And also gives us the ability to kill with the artillery if we wanted to. All right, so now he pays down the P40. I think it's a P40, but he plays down that plane. That does +3 against ground units, that airplane, so we're going to want to get rid of that. Awoken Giant gives us the Type 93. That's an amazing top deck. That'll give our artillery a +1 attack. Plus Imperial Order will give us another +1 attack. So now we can kill the plane. That Type 93 was huge. We did have another Imperial Order in our hand, which I was planning to use, but we are now able to save that for later. Our Type 93 will probably get killed by that guard, but it is what it is. We got rid of the plane, and that was top priority. Death from above. Hits the artillery, unfortunately. He made a misplay there. He should have killed the Type 93 first and then death from above so that he guaranteed to hit the artillery, but whatever. He got what he needed out of that anyhow. All right, so we are on turn 5. Not much threats on the board. We go down to Hayabusa, and if we can get the plane to start hitting face, to hit the HQ, start dealing out some damage. We are an aggro deck, so we don't want to be going too late in the game and not doing any damage. We're aggro as much as we can be, considering the starter deck options. So he just hits face for us for 1. Whatever, okay, so... Alright, so we can Imperial Order our plane and kill his guard. And what else do we have in here? So we can... I think we just blitz to the front line because that puts a little pressure on the opponent. So now he's going to choose what he's going to do with his Corsair. His Corsair doesn't die no matter what, but at least it might force him to spend 2 credits on attacking one of our units. Depending what he has in his hand, he might have something else to deal with all of that. And he just attacks HQ with the plane, so he must have something else to deal with it all. Comes out with the Greyhound first. Okay. So he could have done the Greyhound first and then brought the Greyhound to the front line, and then that would have gave his plane a +1, so he would have done 5 damage instead of 4. But he wanted to card draw, so maybe that's why he did it that way. Okay, so the Corsair is still on the board. We have to deal with that. now that we know our opponent is going face and trying to kill our HQ, we have to make sure we keep his board clear. If he's not interested in trading units and just wants to try to kill our HQ, we have to make sure we control the tempo on the board. If he was trading with us, then we can make different decisions based on how the opponent's trading. And it's just an important part of the game. You have to understand how your opponent's playing their deck so that you can adjust how you play your deck. So he ramps up a credit there, gives him an extra credit slot. So he's going to be at 9. All right, so we got a Mustang. That's going to be handy. We know he has Corsairs in his deck, so that Mustang will be handy. We also know he has those P40s from earlier. So we'll be able to use the Mustang on the deployment effect. It deals 5 damage to a plane. That just got buffed in the last patch. That is a huge buff for the starter decks. And actually it's meta now. It's actually in the top level, top tier decks as well. So that just makes the P51 an amazing card. So he does a weak can do it. Gets +3 health on his HQ, +3 on the Greyhound. Gunships are plane, which does 2 damage on destruction. The Greyhound survives because of the +3 from the weak can do it. All right, so we're at turn 8, and he has more health than when he started the game. So looking a little bit bleak right now, but the only advantage right now is card draw, right? He doesn't have a lot of cards. He has 4 in his hand. We have 4 in our hand. So, I mean, we're pretty even on cards. We can kill the Greyhound and push up, put the Akita down, plug the front line, no, or just drop the goose. We just drop the guard, that's fine too. Use up our credits that way. If we would have moved the Akita up, we would have floated 4 credits. You want to kind of be credit efficient as much as you can. And so getting the Akita in the game is good. And then the guard, having a guard down is pretty good too. The Osaka is a top tier guard, so overwhelming force. He takes away the guard and destruction effect from that unit. Oh, that's only from a single unit, so the Akita is fine. He takes away everything from the guard. Doesn't want us to have guard ability. All right, so our hand is pretty stacked right now. Having 2 zeros that have ambush. If you're not sure about how ambush works, I have another video you could go find on my YouTube channel here that fully explains how ambush works. It is something that definitely confuses new players. So let's plug the front line here and keep everything out of the way. Osaka is not a guard anymore, so we might as well push it up. And he doesn't... I mean, that Zippo could do +4 to infantry, so he does 6 damage to the Osaka, or he just trades off on one of our other units. All right, so he plays down a unit to buff his tank. So now... Oh, it's a Stuart. It's not a Zippo. So the Stuart now can survive an attack. And Akita hits the plane for us there, which is great. So now we could deploy our 0, and it will do 1 damage on deployment. So we deploy our 0 to kill the tank, I guess. And we could use our Mustang to kill the plane. Perfect. And that's pretty much a done deal for our opponent there. Those 2 deployment effects, that just wrecks him. He has no chance now. Look at our support line. He's not going to be able to draw anything that will deal with all of that fast enough before we can kill him. We've got all that damage in the front line with the infantry and the tank, +3 planes on the support. Yeah, not much he can do. We got lethal here. So, good game. Game over. Easy. Easy win. All right. That's the first win. We get 2 gold for our first win of the day. Level 5 with Japan. We're already at level 5 with Japan because we used Japan for the tutorials and to unlock the other decks. So we already got some progression towards Japan, which is why we're already at level 5. All right, so again, we don't see a lot of 1-drops. So we mulligan everything away except for our 2-cost artillery. And we get the 1-drop this time, the 15th Cavs. We have Akita, the T19, and the MITO. I mean, this is a solid starting hand. Plus, we're going to draw another card because we're on the draw. Yeah, super solid. This is exactly what we want for a starting hand. So let's see how this plays out. All right. Opponent's thinking. You only got 4 cards in your hand and 1 credit. It shouldn't take too long to think, but new player, right? It's probably I have to keep in mind new players. You keep in mind that I'm playing these games with a year's worth of experience and gone back to the beginning. So, I mean, it's not fully fair for the new players I'm seeing that I'm going against. I understand that, but this is strictly for educational purposes. This account won't be used for anything else. All right, so he sends out a "We Will Never Surrender." That's awesome. Let's get the emotes going. Send the back a nice fight to the death. Here we go. All right, so he plays down to 3-1. That's fine. I think we're just going to try to go face as much as we can here and bring down his HQ health as fast as we can. Because the one thing about the deck is we don't want to end up in a situation in the mid game where we lose the front line. We want to get all this damage as we can, as much as possible early, so that when we do lose the front line, we can count on deployment effects and destruction effects to finish off the damage. So next turn, we could potentially move the Greyhound up to get a +1 on the artillery. And from the people, so it kills our artillery. So that's a no-go now. So probably maybe just push the Akita up to the front line to keep the pressure on the front line. So he chooses not to kill our unit. I find that interesting. So our unit's still alive. So we'll go up and we'll just hit him in the face again. He's gonna have to kill that unit, and eventually. I don't know if I call that a misplay or not. It's early in the game, so you can take some gambles and chances, but I think he should have killed it to save that 2 damage. So let's just take a look here and see what he does this time. The Panzergrenadier, okay, that is a threat because it can move and attack in the same turn. It's an infantry, so it doesn't have blitz, so we could deploy it, but then next turn it can move and attack. And as well, can that tank can move and attack because it's a tank, so that's what they do. So yeah, we're gonna need some more frontline pressure here, so that we can get in there and plug them from moving up. We're only on turn 4, so we're kind of limited on what we can do here, and I honestly don't know what I do here because I don't remember. At least with the Akita, we do get destruction damage. So we go with, we kill the tank because it has a 0 operation cost. And that way, at least if we don't get the luck, like we didn't get the RNG there, we did not kill the other unit, but the other unit cost 1 to operate. So you definitely want to make them spend credits on operation and get rid of the 0 cost units first. So a little strategy for you there to keep in mind. So he just plays a big tank and doesn't even move. So, and he thinks that 5-6 tank is pretty funny. Pretty strong, beefy unit, but I think we'll figure out a way to deal with it. Let's see what we got here. So our 3-3 tank with an Imperial Order can deal with his infantry unit and survive. And we also have the Greyhound that could do the same thing. And we push up. So right now, my objective is to have more units in the front line than the opponent has on the support line. And that will prevent him from being able to move to the front line. Unless he gets an order that he could remove one with an order, then he won't be able to take over the front line. So, such as that. Oh, and he hits the tank. So why didn't he kill the Greyhound there? He should have killed the Greyhound. If he would have killed the Greyhound, then he could have attacked and moved with the other tank and plugged the front line. I think that was a misplay by the opponent there. Definitely should have killed the Greyhound, especially since the Greyhound buffs the support line. Alright, so we draw a Rising Sun. We're going to draw cards. Always draw right away. First thing you should always do is draw, especially if you know you're going to draw anyway. You get the cards in your hand. Gives you more options. So we push the MITO up, and we hit face with the tank. And now we have 3 units on the front to his 2 units. So we're in a good position. Again, unless he has another bloody sickle or something. We're in a good shape. And realistically, huge misplay by him to not kill the Greyhound with that bloody sickle. He really should have taken care of that. So he blitzes down with another tank. So now he's got 3 big tanks down, but that was his whole turn. 7 credits to come out and kill 1 unit. Don't know what he has in his hand. Maybe his hand is just really bad right now. But he could have killed 2 units using the other 2 tanks. Because now we have 4 damage to face in the front. So we move the Type 93. And so the Type 93 buffs all our units with a +1. We're able to put 6 damage, and we got 2 MITOs, which means this is lethal. So even if he kills our front line, he's dead because the destruction effect on the MITO, however you want to pronounce it, will deal 2 damage to the HQ, and 2 times 2 is 4. So no matter what he does here, it's GG. And there we go. He's going to kill everything, and he will lose. And that's it. So just controlling the tempo, understanding what the opponent's doing. Level 6 for Japan. Here we go. All right. So this could be the last game to get to level 7. Let's see what happens here. So we get rid of the 4 drops and the 5 drops. We keep the Greyhound and the 15th Cav. And not bad. Type 93 is always nice to have. Imperial Order is always nice to have. They help balance the playing field when you need that extra little buff to deal with a unit. And we're on the draw, so we get another card. Let's see what we get here. So we get an Akita. That's perfect. I mean, our curve for this deck is pretty low, so it's pretty good odds of getting these cards off the mulligan. Just our first game here was just some pretty bad luck. All right, so we put down the Greyhound. That Greyhound's an amazing starting card, especially against Japan. You have to consider that your opponent pretty much has the same deck you have, depending on who their ally is. And that 1/3 Greyhound trades with everything. Like the 15th Cav only has a 2 attack, so you're going to be able to kill it and survive. Greyhound is just a really strong opening card. All the way up the ladder in the meta as well. The Greyhound is super strong. All right, so he drops down the Fury, the 2/2 Fury. So we don't want to let that get in the front line. Definitely not. So we could either just move the Greyhound up with the Type 93 on the support to give the Greyhound a 2 attack, so it trades with that unit. Or we can just slow down a little bit and play the Akita right now. The infantry can't move and attack at the same time, so he has to move the infantry up, and then the turn after that he could attack. So by putting the Akita down now, we maximize our credit value, our credit efficiency, and if he puts another unit down behind that, which he probably will, he has 3 credits, and that's a 0 operation cost. So we could kill it with the Akita, and the Akita will have a destruction effect that will deal 2 damage to a random opponent, which could be the other unit that he puts down, right? So which we're hoping for. We don't want to hit the HQ with Akita at this stage. We really want to just do extra damage. So he plays nothing. Wow, okay, I did not see that coming. All right, so he has a really bad hand potentially. So now with the Type 93 and the Greyhound, we trade with that unit no problem. I don't know, is he setting something up? Or does he just have a really bad hand? Let's see what happens here. Type 93. And that wasn't a top deck, so he already had that in his hand. So he could have played that earlier. Conserving resources maybe, and try making sure to get value. I mean, that wasn't value. He didn't need a 3 attack. Yeah, I suppose he did, right? He needed 3 to kill the Greyhound. So he gets the MITO down. All right, so he's got good value on the board now for trading with us. And we get another Greyhound, which is super nice. So if we... interesting. We could Imperial Order our Greyhound and make it live through the MITO, or we move the Akita up and we plug. So now he's going to have to hit the Greyhound with the MITO. The MITO survives, but the Akita will have that destruction effect, which is just so powerful. All right, so Greyhound gone. Not a big deal. We don't have anything in the support line at this stage. I mean, we get the Hayabusa down soon, maybe. I know I'm talking a little bit fast, but I'm trying to keep up with the action here. So you could always just pause and rewind the video if you miss something. Let's see. So he's getting a little bit beefier units on the board. He's got that 3/4. Well, it's buffed with the Type 93. So we put a plane on the support line. We're sort of anticipating that he's going to have to start killing our units. You'll have to kill the plane because the plane can just keep attacking the HQ. And we have the Osaka in our hand, so that's really a... So on the deployment effect, he hits the plane. So that's a misplay, right? Should have killed the Type 93. I mean, there's no other units on the board that... He's got other units on the board that deal 3 damage, right? So he doesn't need to ping that down to a 2 for no reason. So he should have really just... hit the Type 93 to take that buff off of all of our units. So now we put down our tank and gives another +1 to our infantry. So now our Akita in the front will do 4 more damage. We're going to take the 4 damage. We have to do all this damage because he does have a decent board. And so we definitely want to bring him down low so that the destruction effects that we have could kick in. So he trades off 2 units. Thanks to our Akita randomness. That was great. Just lucky to hit a unit that would die as opposed to just doing damage to these other ones. So that was a misplay. Big misplay there. We have lethal. He had to kill our units. He shouldn't have hit the face. He should have killed our units. He's putting too much value on his zero on his airplane and not killing our units. And I don't know why I just played a guard, because I just missed lethal. I had lethal there with 8 damage and I didn't do it. So mistake after mistake on this one. But we're still in we're in a fine position to win the game anyway. Wow, I almost gave the game away here, because now if he kills the plane... If he kills the plane now, that'll do 2 destruction, and we don't have anything in hand to do 2 more. And he just healed his HQ by 2. So he really needs to kill our plane here. If he doesn't kill our plane 2 turns in a row, that's just massive miscalculation. Of course, the plane doesn't look like a lethal threat right now, but we have Imperial Order in our hand, which gives us the 5 attack, and that would be lethal. Draws cards. So he just 2 turns in a row, he should have killed our plane. And we gave him the bonus chance to win, to take care of it, and he didn't take the bonus chance because of my mistake. So we will Imperial Order and end this game before I make any more mistakes. Alright, so always check and see where you have lethal. I don't know how I missed that lethal, but I did. And here we go, we win anyway. So that's it. That's our Japan deck. I think that gets us to level 7. Boom, level 7. Perfect. We unlocked the last card, Bombing Raid, which, as I said at the beginning, is a super card. You'll want to add that into your Japan deck right away. All right, so there you go. There's your Japan improved starter decks. Good luck.